Alright guys, in this video we are going to talk about paint failures and how they happen, and bodywork failures. And you know, a lot of guys are going to say, oh, this never happens to me. Well, it's probably because either one of two things: either you don't do enough of it, or you keep everything you do inside and it never goes out into the weather. Because let me tell you, if you do enough of it and your stuff goes out into the weather, you will have some sort of paint failures or filler failures or something. And we're going to talk about how to deal with that. Unfortunately, automotive products are volatile, and volatile products have times when they have issues. So the question is how did this happen, and how to not make it happen again? And what a lot of people do is they go to extreme overkill to try and make stuff happen, like these things you've heard before. Bondo always cracks. It's not true. You know, you put it on too thick, and obviously that's not too thick. The specs on the can say up to 1/4 inch. I never have paint failures. Well, like I said, you probably don't do enough of it and leave stuff outside. This has been outside since it's been painted. If you see, this is faded really bad. And let's talk about maybe what might have happened, and then how to deal with something when you have an issue. When you will have an issue, that's just it. You know, I've talked to painters, many of them, and all of them say, look, you know, it's just a matter of time. You will have problems. You will have something that doesn't last. You'll have something that fails. And it's usually because, typically, that's because you didn't follow all the rules, but sometimes it's just unexplainable. You know, it just happens. And you never really knew what happened or why. But, you know, this is where guys go, well, you got to go over epoxy primer. You got to have everything, you know, sanded a certain way. You got to have all this stuff. If you do everything that's on the can, you're probably not going to have any problems. But every once in a while, you just do. It's just life. So what you want to do in a situation like this is attempt your best to reverse engineer. Okay, how did I do this? How did this possibly happen? Because you don't want it to happen again. Sometimes you're not going to figure out what happened, and you're just going to just repaint it, and probably it won't happen again. So whatever happened, it could have been that you had too much hardener in your filler. Again, things you want to make sure is that you didn't put the filler on too thick. We're at 1/8 of an inch. Like I said, I always know how thick my filler is, guys. You know, kind of got an idea. Done this before. For every gallon of filler, you need 1 hardener. If you put in 2 or 3, it's probably going to have some issues. It's a good chance. So your filler should be over bare metal or epoxy primer, if the epoxy primer and the filler is spec'd for filler to go over it. And of course that should be sanded. So the question is, what do I think happened here? I'm not really too sure, but I see some swelling going on a lot of places here. It's all over this whole roof. I'm gonna have to take this whole roof down to metal again. I can see some like blistering over here. The roof is faded. So let's go over what I did to this roof that's different than the rest of the body. One of the things I did is I shot the roof without clear. So I used single stage urethane on the roof. I used clear on everything else over the single stage urethane. And one of the things I did when I did this is I did reduce it. I reduced it. I shouldn't reduce that product. The Tamco is not supposed to be reduced. It's actually a clear based single stage urethane paint. So because it's clear based, if you notice, if you know something about paint, clear, do not reduce clear more than what it says on the can. If you reduce it, that is what happens. It will fail. So because I put reducer in it, put way too much reducer in it, I think, I don't recall, I should have cleared this. The reason I didn't clear it is because my neighbors were having a party next door, and as soon as you hit that clear, boy, it just like cloud city. So I didn't want to do it. I thought, well, I'll just use single stage urethane, and obviously we had an issue from that. So what, I know that that was a problem. Okay, so I'm going to try and reverse engineer. I know that that was an issue. I'll make sure that I put clear on here. What I think happened is, because you notice this is kind of flat, is when the clear dissolved, or there was no clear, but when the paint wasn't shiny anymore, because it started to go dead. Okay, this being this color, a bright orange, really absorbs heat. So bright oranges, bright reds, some even the darker reds, if they're in the sun and it's really hot out all the time and it's not reflecting anything anymore, they absorb heat and can cause issues like this. So that's what I think probably happened. And it could be that I got a bad batch of filler. It could be that I got a bad, I don't think I used too much hardener in it. I don't normally do that. I always make sure that I put the proper amount. And again, I might not even know what it is, and I probably will fix it, and it probably will never do it again. But it could be because when I drilled these here, it compromised and got water underneath the filler, and it walked its way along, and then that, along with the heat and the constant rain we had this year, again, this was not inside. I had to keep this outside for right now because my place where I normally put it is where the car lift is, and I've had cars in and out of there all year around. Besides the work you guys see done, I got oil changes, I got cars to maintain, I have literally all these things. Like that lift needs work done to it right now. I mean, I have constant stuff that I'm working on. That's why people go, hey, you should clean your garage. It's like, dude, you have no idea. I am so freaking buried. I need 2 people. I'm doing everything with 1. So anyway, that's just the problem. Got a helicopter keep on flying over. I have to keep stopping, so it's kind of irritating. I have no idea why they're flying back and forth. They're making a big loop going around over my house and out over the field. Maybe they're looking for somebody or something. So pardon if you hear the noise. I'm going to try and not run the video when they're coming over. It looks like they're further over now. They're kind of been looping their way going that way direction. If you can see him, he's way out there. And he's been making a loop. He comes around, he comes back over this way, and he's been working his way along, kind of scanning for something. I don't know what they're looking for. So we know we had a paint failure. The paint could have caused the filler failure. Don't really know. Again, but you want to try and reverse engineer the problem. Go back and look for what might have happened and then redo it. Now, what some guys do is they go to the furthest extreme. They go, oh, well, I always knew filler doesn't work. I always knew that, no, you're getting to craziness. It just might happen. You fix it when it does, and then you move on. These are volatile chemicals you're using. They're volatile materials. In order to get something to last outside for 10 years or 8 years or whatever these things last, to look as shiny and nice as they do, you're going to be pushing the envelope with chemical stuff, and it's going to have volatility to it. So there's going to be some of them. You're just going to have some failures. This has been outside right here for it was outside for 2 years. There's absolutely no failures on this whole thing. There's no filler failures. There's nothing. So it doesn't happen to everything. There's filler on that pickup truck over there. Same thing. It's been out in the weather for 5, 6, 7 years. No issues. So it's not the filler's fault. It's not Bondo. It's not Bondo always cracks. there was something that went wrong on this roof. It could have been the vibration from that thing there. I actually heard it pop, and I think that's what it was. I heard a noise. I was like, what the heck was that? Something landed on my roof, and it was probably the filler cracking. So I don't really know exactly what happened. One of the things that can cause filler to go bad is heat. So if there's a lot of heat on something, that will make it crack. If it's not adhering to the metal well enough, that can make it crack. If you use filler over this rust converter, it's probably not going to adhere very well, and it could crack from that. A lot of fillers, if they're over paint, they won't adhere very well. They can crack. So one of the things can happen is stress because of that beacon that's up there on that pole. It was having issues from before. They actually put a reinforcement panel up there, so it's had issues from, you know, movement. So what I could use is I could use this fiberglass reinforced filler as an underlayment, and then put some other stuff over it. This will help strengthen that up. I might use that. You know, just the thing is don't go to full extreme and start thinking because you got a failure that it happens all the time and everything fails because it's, you know, plastic filler. Because on this car, somebody used lead, and guess what happened? It cracked too. So, you know what? It's any bodywork stuff can fail. It doesn't matter what it is. Okay, you may never figure out why, but it's best to try and reverse engineer and go back and kind of go through the things, the process of what you did, and maybe you did something wrong. Maybe you just didn't. Maybe you did everything right and it just failed. And you thought you did it all right. But it's just volatile materials that can have issues. So just remember that. Don't get discouraged because you had a failure. Don't go changing your life and starting over and starting thinking, oh, well, I've got to do everything different. And I've got to, you know, whatever. And to make this rectified and make it never happen again. You know, I've heard so many of these things like filler absorbs moisture. If you look here, there's no way that was absorbing. That's not spongy. I've heard things like polyester primer always cracks. It doesn't adhere. You know, it's just, look, anything that's sanded absorbs moisture, just so you know. It's like if you sand the paint on this, water can go through it. At that point, it's not sealed. So the same thing with filler. As soon as you sand it, it absorbs it. Yeah, of course, moisture is going to go into it, so it'll go through it, just like anything that's sanded. So there's all these theories out there of different things that people have changed their whole ways of doing stuff and gotten to these extreme places where, you know, they just do all these, you know, I've just seen so much. I can't even tell you all the things I've seen. But when you look at this, you need to see how flat that is. It's obviously got a problem with the paint that was on the surface. Could moisture go through it at that point? Yeah, possibly. I don't know. You know, I don't know how that works exactly. So again, we're just going to make sure it doesn't do that again. Hopefully. Honestly, I could have still had some of that rust converter on there and didn't get it all off, and that might be why the filler didn't stick. Look at it, see if you can figure out what happened. Don't go crazy and redo it. And then more than likely, and my experience is when I redo something, it doesn't happen again. So that's just my experience with failures. And again, like I said, I see that paint faded. That faded paint, once it's faded, instead of reflecting the heat, it can absorb it. Okay, and especially that color can absorb heat. And I think that was a contributing factor, along with that light moving with a little bit of stress up there, and it was absorbing heat and not reflecting anymore because the paint failed. That, I think, is what the issue was. But again, as I tear it off, I'm gonna be constantly thinking about what could have caused this. You know, did I follow all the proper things? Typically, if you do follow, you know, filler being over bare metal, 1/4 inch max, you know, and all that stuff, you're gonna be okay. You're not gonna have too much. You're not gonna have cracking. You're not gonna have stuff like that happen. But if you don't, you know, sometimes you can go up to, I've seen guys go up to 1/2 inch or more with filler and not have any issues. But, you know, again, you're pushing the envelope. And in some areas of the car, it might be fine. And I've done a couple doors on cars and put it on too thick, and it was fine. Lasted for years. Like on this beast, when I painted it, I mean, I had no conscience. It's definitely got filler on more than 1/2 inch thick. A few places, no failures. No filler failures at all. Been in the sun all its life. Never gets out in the shade. So anyway, don't go thinking that the way you did it is wrong. Just fix it. Look at it, see if there's anything you can change, and maybe, but don't go crazy with all this nonsense people are thinking now. I mean, guys are going and starting doing all this crazy stuff. Oh, you got to butt weld everything because it doesn't, if you do it any other way, it's going to crack. That's a bunch of baloney. You know, none of that stuff is true. It's all depending on how you want to do it, you know, how much your skill is. You know, don't go and starting over and trying to relearn everything because you had one failure. Just fix it. Like if you just put filler over this stuff, pretty much it ain't gonna stay on there. You put on any type of metal prep surface, you gotta remove all that, sand it down again. A lot of times what I'll do is if I have this on there and there's some black that I can't take off, I'll primer it with the epoxy primer, and then I'll go over that with filler, because I know that I'm going to have a better result than if I just go over this. Okay, the epoxy primer will stick pretty well to something that's had rust converter on it. You know, epoxy primer sticks really good to that. I never had that stuff sticks on there, but filler for some reason doesn't really stick well. If it sticks better to epoxy primer. So again, like I said, reverse engineer it. See what you could have done wrong. If you can't see anything you did wrong, do the same repair again. It'll probably be gone. You probably won't do it again. So anyway, that's what you're always thinking about when you have a failure. It's taking it off. When I'm going to take that roof off there, I'm going to take that lift back off the bucket truck, you know, and then work on that roof. It's just too hard to work on like that. So it's easy to just back the thing off. I wish I had a level area to do it. But we'll be doing a video on that, on fixing that. But I just thought I'd make this video on paint failures and body failures. And, you know, just please don't go to these crazy extremes thinking, oh, I've got to use lead now because that's the only thing that lasts. That is a bunch of baloney. That's just crap. I don't know. It's all over the YouTube right now. It's all over the place where, you know, you've got to metal finish it all. You've got to butt weld all your parts in. You know, if it doesn't vibrate and fall off, you know, it usually won't. But if it does, then, you know, figure out what happened. If it was on too thick, then don't put it on so thick. Maybe straighten your metal out a little bit more. If it's, you know, if you maybe just had a filler failure, there's no way you're going to know that. Don't go, oh, well, I don't use that USC grip filler anymore because it cracks. Well, you had one failure with it. For God's sakes, doesn't mean that everything you do with that product is bad when there's no other places on that whole truck cracked. There's no places on that whole thing done. There's no places on my green bug that are cracked anywhere, and I've used that filler on all of them. There's nothing on my truck that's done it, you know. So it's like, you got to know that it's not the product. It's probably just something you did. It might just be that you had a bad batch. It might just be that there's a vibration there that you weren't aware of, and you may have to fix it a couple times before you figure it out. But just don't give up on your system because you think that, you know, it's just not right. Because more than likely, if you're doing all the stuff the way that I show on the videos, usually it's going to last. Usually you're not going to have a problem. But there are times, every painter, I've talked to several painters, a lot of the guys watch the YouTube that are painters, and they'll tell you in the comments below, every once in a while it just happens, and just fix it and move on. All right, so anyway, I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hopefully that helps you if you do have a problem, not to get discouraged. Just fix it and move on. Talk to you next one.